Hello everyone and welcome to Pro Tour Gatecrash. Rich Hagon, David-Marshall, the Pro Tour historian, with you for 3 great days of gaming. BDM, what's in store? Big change to start with.
Absolutely. Normally we would start with Constructed, end the day on Limited, start day 2 on Limited, go into Constructed at the end. We are starting tomorrow with something you've probably been doing at home for the past week. We are going to start with a Gatecrash draft.
Fantastic.
It's Pro Tour Gatecrash. The new cards have been out for what, 2 weeks here, and we are going to get a look at the best players in the world drafting this brand new set, these 5 guilds, figuring out which ones come out on top.
3 rounds of draft, then it's 5 rounds of constructed. If you go 4 and 4 or better, that takes you in to day 2.
So what you're saying is a disastrous draft can't knock you out of contention for day 2.
That's right. Even if you're 0 and 3, you can get into constructed, unveil your Pro Tour breaking deck, and pile through. 4 and 4 gets you into day 2. Same again on day 2, and then we cut to the top 8 on Sunday. What we're going to do on the big video wall is show you some of the cards and some of the players that are going to make an impact, we think, at Pro Tour Gatecrash. Let's get to the video wall, and we begin, David-Marshall, with not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 cards with a similar theme.
Well, I mean, this is the balance of the so-called shock lands from the Return to Ravnica block. So we had the 5 guilds in Return to Ravnica. Now we have the remaining 5 guilds in Gatecrash and Breeding Pool, Sacred Foundry, Godless Shrine, Stomping Ground, Watery Grave. These cards are going to have a huge impact in Standard.
Why?
Well, if you've looked at some of the mana bases for decks playing Boros Reckoner, or if you want to play a Bant deck and getting a Breeding Pool suddenly, these are going to make people have access to just much better mana for this event. Again, the cards are, count as Breeding Pool is an island in a forest. It interacts with other forms of dual lands in the Standard format that come into play untapped if you control a, a basic land type.
Okay.
So it's going to be very interesting to see how these let people really have just a wider access to sideboard cards, wider access to hybrid mana strategies, to all sorts of different cards.
Well, mana is only as good as the spells that you cast with them. So let's see what's up. First of all, we've got 3 cards here, all with a red-green theme. Take it away, BDM.
Well, Gorkline Rampager is a card we've already seen make an impact in Standard. Previous Star City Standard opens, people were playing with, Jund decks, they call them, red, green, black, various, speeds, very aggressive, more mid-rangey. Gorkline Rampager, is a solid body of 4/4, but, +4/+4, and gains trample until end of turn, uncounterable essentially for a red and a green. That's a very, very powerful non-spell spell.
Quick question, is Blood Rush just for Limited, or do we see it in Constructed?
No, we absolutely see it in Constructed.
Right.
We absolutely see this in Standard. It's already got a top 8 in a Standard event.
All right. Domri Raid, one of the 2 new Planeswalkers in Gatecrash. Plenty going on there.
This is a card I'm really excited about. There was a lot of Twitter talk about a modern deck with Domri Raid that used Phyrexian Obliterator.
Oh,
so
nice.
it takes advantage of all the dual lands.
Okay.
To play 4 black and then play this. Target creature you control fights another target creature is a huge deal. It's a huge deal.
Right.
In modern Obliterator, that's the dream, but in Standard, Boros Reckoner, which, when you get to fight with your Boros Reckoner, you actually get to shoot 2 creatures. Your Boros Reckoner becomes a 2-for-1 there.
All right.
Or maybe even a 2-for-none.
Let's go over to Burning Tree Emissary, and I only have one question about this. When it comes into play onto the battlefield, you get red and green. So if you've got another one in hand, you can chain it, you can play 2. But if you've got 3 in hand, you can play 3. Will we live the dream and see on camera someone quad Burning Tree Emissary on turn 2?
We'll certainly see somebody play 2 of these quite often. We might see someone play 3. I don't think we're going to see anybody get all 4 out into play.
Ooh, I want 4.
If we do, it'll be quite the achievement unlocked. This card's made a big splash this week. Again, we were talking about Twitter earlier. It's been a really interesting phenomenon as Tomohiro Saito, Japanese player, is at home in Japan, not qualified for this event. He's qualified for the next Pro Tour. Practicing playing Standard with this super aggressive red-green deck which has Burning Tree Emissaries, and it was really burning up Twitter as he was talking about it.
Another couple of cards coming up now. They both have the word Boros in them. They are very, very different though. Okay, Boros Elite, 1/1, full 1, got Battalion, so that's the Boros ability this time around, the keyword. You get 3 creatures attacking, and Boros Elite will get +2/+2 until the end of turn. You're going to see tons of that in Limited, maybe Constructed?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen over the last couple of years, what we would call white weenie strategies, decks that have a lot of small, cheap white creatures and then ways to enhance them. This guy comes with his own sort of performance-enhancing substances in the form of Battalion. And, Craig Wesco is someone, known for that deck archetype. Again, it's a human, so Gavany Township and, Avacyn's Pilgrim and all sorts of cool stuff you can do there. I think we'll see that card.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Brian David-Marshall will explain to you why you want approximately 24 Boros Reckoners in your folder at home.
This is the card of the tournament right now. When you're talking to people are very excited about it. It is really, even if people aren't playing this card, I guarantee you that every person playing in this tournament is thinking about this card, right? So even if you're not playing this card, you're like, how am I going to deal with a turn 2 Boros Reckoner? How am I going to deal with that? What's my game plan? Everybody. If you're not thinking about it, you won't be playing on day 2. I can tell you that. This card does a lot. It's got Boros, its casting cost. It's a 3/3, so 3/3 for 3, pretty reasonable. But the big thing here is that whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target creature or player.
Or player.
Yeah.
Or player.
Yeah, or player. There's a lot of things you can do here. So, I was joking about an infinite life combo.
Right.
There's, which we'll get into, I'm sure, more over
During
the weekend.
the days, yep.
Yeah. But the big thing is, let's just say I clear the board with a Blasphemous Act. Let's say we get really bogged down, I have a cheap Blasphemous Act, so I clear the board and I get to redirect 13 damage. I get to take the 13 damage that gets done to my Boros Reckoner and send it straight at your head.
Wow.
Very
Brutal.
exciting card.
That's just one of the 4,000
by the way, it also
things.
gains first strike and
Right.
messes up combat. And
We'll have it all weekend long. Let's get on to some more cards. Cards perhaps not quite on the same power level as Boros Reckoner, but still very interesting. Tell us about Devour Flesh, 1 and a black for an instant.
Sure, I mean, Diabolic Edict, Cruel Edict are cards that have always seen play. Non-targeted removal, really good against hexproof. If you can get someone down to 1 hexproof creature,
Sure.
they just have their Geist of St. Traft. We'll hear from him, I'm sure, this weekend. You can force a player to sacrifice it. It's their only creature. You kill all their other creatures, they lose their hexproof creature. Also, again, I talked about how people are thinking about Boros Reckoner.
Right.
So what they're looking for are non-red methods of removal. Remember, all these decks have Searing Spears and Pillar of Flames and, whatever other red removal they have. That's really not that great. Where you 2-for-1 yourself,
Sure.
getting rid of their Boros Reckoner, or maybe you're such a low life total that you can't even afford to remove their Reckoner. Cards like Devour Flesh, I think Abrupt Decay might make a big showing this week, and I think that's a card that people should be thinking about.
Okay. We come to another of our keyword mechanics from Gatecrash next. It's Evolve. So although you see a little 1/1 there for 1 mana for Experiment 1, there's a lot of 1/1s in there. It's not always going to stay a 1/1. How much do you like this card?
I love this card in both Limited and Constructed. Again, it goes right into those green-white human decks that, if you've been following the Pro Tour and the Open Series and Standard for the last couple of years, you've seen green-white human decks doing really well. This card's going to fit right into those strategies.
And finally on this slide, Cartel Aristocrat. This ability, it looks like, it's a 2/2 for 2. That's fine. Grizzly Bears, quite good in Magic, it turns out. This ability, though, sacrifice another creature. Cartel Aristocrat gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. You can do so much with that.
Yeah, and this, again, is a card that we've already seen do stuff in Standard. There was a Standard Open 2 weeks ago where it made its debut, and it was replacing the Vampire Aristocrat in a Human Reanimator deck. So Angel of Glory's Rise, and Fiend Hunters, and sacking and looping, and all that kind of fun stuff. This card is it's going to be a player.
All right, everything we've seen so far might turn up in Constructed. We want to give you a flavour of Limited as well, because remember, that's where we start tomorrow. So let's bring up 5 cards from the 5 guilds of Ravnica. Call of the Nightwing, Dimir, Shamble Shark for Simic, Watchek Halberdiers, Boros, Zurtar Swine for Gruul, and finally Kingpin's Pet for Ortov. Bidion, what do you want to pick out from these 5 lovely sort of middle-of-the-road cards?
I really love Evolve. I just won a draft last night with 3 Shamble Sharks in my deck and 3 Cloudfin Raptors. An Evolve deck, really inexpensive cards, get them down early, and then continue to develop your board and then grow your creature. So every time you play a creature with either greater power or greater toughness, it gets bigger and you start to get out of hand. Really cheap threats that get out of hand quickly. I love it. The other deck I've had the most success with, and I think the Magic Online results will bear that out, is Kingpin's Pet, the Extort deck. Could be so...
Well, it's grindy,
it's
isn't
so
it?
grindy, yeah. It's just like, you're like, I think I'm going to beat them. I think I'm going to beat them. Oh, they used Smite to kill my guy in combat, and then they had 3 Extort triggers, and then I lost 3 life, and they gained 3 life, and this whole game is slipping away from me all of a sudden.
I think Ortsov's going to be a really big player this weekend. Talking of big players, we've got nearly 400 players qualified for this event. We're going to tell you about 8 of them. Will it be the top 8? Boy, that'd be unlikely.
That would be awesome.
But let's take a look. So first of all, up comes, Mr. Louis Scott Vargas. Now, there have been some players on the Channel Fireball squad in recent times that perhaps you've had a bit more attention paid to them. Paola-Vita Dama de Rosa, for example, or Brian Kibler, a Pro Tour winner from last year. This is the man who makes Channel Fireball tick.
And it's changed the way a lot of people play Magic right now. You see more and more teams, or more and more players trying to form teams to emulate the success and the methodology of Channel Fireball.
And certainly no one has had more success at doing that than one of the representatives of our next team.
John Finkel. John Melon Farming Finkel. He's really just, depending on, one or two of either the first or second best player of all time in the game, playing a Hall of Famer, playing still at the top of his game, 2 top 8s, in the last season, and playing with an incredible roster of talent.
For sure. Svi Moshevitz, Tom Martell's in there, Sam Black, just
Patrick Chapin, Reed Duke.
Huge ton of great players. Let's bring you another pair of teams now. Now, my side of the board, from Mana Deprived, from the home team, Go Canada, it's Alexander Hayne. Will he be playing Miracles again? There are Miracles around in Standard once again.
Avacyn Restored still legal.
Absolutely. So we'll see what he does with that.
And playing with Su Ching Kuo and a Canadian team that has become increasingly international.
Yeah,
and
Miguel Gatica is
Miguel
on that
Gatica
team
also,
from
right.
Costa
It's going to
Rica.
be interesting to see how that influx of other opinions and talent influences their success.
Now, talking of a sort of global team, here's another Pro Tour winner, Stanislav Sivka. Who's he playing with? Who's testing with?
He's playing with the Czech players.
Right. That's what you'd expect.
Right.
But then there's more, isn't there? Because you've got Hall of Famer Rafael Levy testing. And then if you want to come to your part of the world, Melissa DeTora is on that squad.
Right. This is like the TCG player sponsored team. Sivka, obviously huge breakout performance. See, he dominated Modern. Let's see what he can do at Standard this
Absolutely.
week.
2 more sets of players to bring you. Let's begin with Shahar Shenhar, and he has won a couple of Grand Prix already. He's still only 19 years old, having a tremendous run at the moment. This season, 12 events he's managed to finish in the points.
Right, just got himself to gold. Young player, Channel Fireball Panic.
Right.
CFB Panic is the team. This is a bunch of young guys.
The young guns,
So
right?
young guns. I think Christian Calcano's playing with them.
Jacob Maynard,
Patrick. Michael Hetrick is playing with them. A number of really good players, expecting big things from them. And obviously not only they're emulating Channel Fireball, but they've been sort of brought into that, into that fold of the
Now
mothership.
this guy in Seattle, you said, I think big things are going to happen for Ari Lax. Well, big things turned out to be 9th. So close.
Heartbreaking.
But a tremendous performance. And obviously, if he didn't make the top 8, you can't really say a dominant performance. But I thought his Infect deck was just brilliant.
And he's one of the top 10 players in the game without a Pro Tour top 8. In terms of, like, if you just measure by lifetime pro points, he's like 4th or 5th. somewhere in there. Another person who's in that range is Adam Yurchik. And Adam Yurchik and Ari Lax are working together for this event with Craig Wesco, most notably.
Okay.
Former team. This is someone who has some experience forming teams. I'm really excited to see what that trio and their compatriots bring to the table.
Okay, we're almost out of time, but our last two, here they come. First, Vincent Lemois of Belgium, been around forever. He was like in the top 4 of teams back in 2004, made Pro Tour Top 8s Paris 2011. But without further ado, because we are almost out of time, talk to me, BDM, about this man and his year.
Yuya Watanabe, it's just ridiculous. I mean, basically, if he holds serve, if he just sort of picks up a couple points here and there along the way for the rest of the season, he is in all likelihood going to be a 3-time player of the year. Just unbelievable.
Absolutely crazy. 57 points, and we've only played 1 Pro Tour. But that is all about to change, because it is time for Pro Tour Gatecrash 2013. For Brian David Marshall, I'm your host, Rich Hagon, saying bye.